Hi class, in this video I'm going to try and cover the first half of chapter 6. So one of the key things to know about this video is I'm going to try and keep it relatively brief, just show you a few different highlights. It's not necessarily going to even go into that much depth about each highlight, but just kind of point out a few things I think you should be paying attention to as you look through this chapter. So the first thing that we're going to be looking at is the organizational patterns described in the book, and I think that these can be very important in terms of thinking about how you're going to structure an overall document. Second, we're going to be talking about headings. These can really help us identify different sections in a document effectively. We're going to briefly touch on paragraph structure and one of the more key points in terms of how you avoid some unethical methods of structuring paragraphs. And then finally, I'm just going to kind of direct you towards the idea of coherent strategies and transition words. So, to start off, I want to just talk quickly about the 8 organizational patterns. Now, one of the keys to this is that a lot of these are ones that we might already be familiar with. Things like a chronological pattern. This just makes sense. The idea that you're going to want to organize things in terms of the order they happened in. Say this happened first, this happened next, etc., etc. But there's 2 ones that might be a little less familiar to us. The first one is the problem method solution. Now this is used a lot in everything from science writing to professional reports to proposals for research projects, etc. First, you define the problem clearly in terms of what the problem is for the reader of the document. You describe the methods that you're using for investigating that problem and investigating the solutions, and then you offer some solutions and really define and describe those solutions. So we're going to be coming back to this particular organizational pattern towards the end of the semester in our proposal and our report units of the course. The other one that I want to look at is the more important to less important. Now this one might seem a little bit counterintuitive because often we want to try and do this thing where we build some suspense or interest in our writing, really get people excited about everything before we give them the big idea, but that's not what technical writing is all about. It's much more about trying to give someone the key takeaway right at the beginning. This is something where you want to tell them exactly what they need to know and let them move on with their day. It'd be great if they read the entire document, but if they don't get around to reading the rest of it, you want to make sure that they know what they need to know. So you start off with the most important point, then you move to less important points. We're going to be using this consistently throughout the semester. You're going to be using it in basically everything that you write from our correspondence forward. Next thing, writing headings. So headings are those different, typically bolded texts that we label different sections of a document with, and they can be really effective in breaking up a document and help people navigate it quickly. However, we often probably use headings much more as labels, things that might be just really quick things to show that there's different sections, but those aren't going to be the most effective headings that we can create. Instead, we want to try and create informative headings. So our textbook actually talks about this on page 115, and it says that headings can be much longer. In fact, in some web writing research, there's been evidence that headings, the most effective headings, are approximately 8 words long. So if you're looking at single word headings, something that might say introduction or body or conclusion, those are probably going to be less effective than headings that are longer. Longer headings can give people much more specific information about what is contained in a section. It can really help them understand what they're supposed to be trying to find there. It can help them navigate to that section quickly and find the information they need, which is really what we want. So, I'm sure we're probably all familiar with paragraph structure. It starts with a topic sentence. The topic sentence really summarizes the main point of the paragraph, and then there's a lot of supporting information after that that really builds on that idea. It makes it more clear and convincing. It offers evidence of it. It offers examples of it. It defines it, etc., etc., etc. Paragraph structure is important to technical communication because you really want to make sure there's a real clarity and coherence in a paragraph, so that if someone looks at the topic sentence, they can understand what's going to be in that paragraph. So it's important to really pay attention to structuring your paragraphs clearly, but I kind of want to just skip ahead and talk about this unethical practice. So there's this temptation perhaps to try and bury bad news in the middle of paragraphs. Why would we do this? Well, it creates a little less emphasis on it. It makes it so that someone might be able to see some other information that's going to really lessen the impact of this, make them feel not so bad about it, not be as angry, etc., etc., etc. As we see in this example here, in our proposal, we stated that the project would be completed by May. In making this projection, we used the same algorithms that we have successfully used for more than 14 years. In this case, however, the projection was not realized due to several factors beyond our control. We have since completed the project satisfactorily and believe strongly that this missed deadline was an anomaly that's unlikely to be repeated. So in this example paragraph, if we look at the topic sentence, if we look at the very first sentence of this paragraph, we're going to see that there was a projection that would be completed by May. If someone's skimming through the document and just reading that, they're not necessarily going to see that this projection was not actually met. They're just going to understand that this was the projection. So it's really important not to bury that bad news. You don't want someone moving through the document quickly, missing a key point, even if it's a bad point, because that can be dishonest. It can create bad relationships. It can create situations that are going to be more problematic for you. So, final topic for this video, creating coherence within and between paragraphs. This is often the process of using effective transitional words to move from one idea to the next. So on page 121 of our textbook, it discusses different ways to try and create some of these coherence devices, and it gives us some examples, as shown here, of different types of transitions that we can use to show different relationships, how we can talk about adding things together or comparing them or showing different causes and effects. And it's important to start thinking about how you're going to relate these ideas, because you don't want sentences just to kind of line up next to each other without clear relationships between them. It's important to kind of help someone get through that paragraph and understand where you're getting to. So this is just the first video on this chapter. In the second video, I'm going to be focusing much more specifically on sentences and the structure of effective sentences.